The movie begins with Dr. James Aranda speaking in an interview about the horrific incident that occurred a year earlier because of the supermoon. During that event, more than 1 billion people around the world suffered violent mutations that transformed them into terrifying creatures after being exposed to the moonlight. Humanity was shaken to its core, but the worst part is that it's about to happen again with the appearance of a second supermoon. When the interviewer asks how this could have happened, Dr. Aranda avoids giving a direct answer. Instead, he stresses that everyone must stay out of the moonlight that night and have a solid survival plan. He also reassures people that scientists are working tirelessly on a solution and that humanity will overcome this crisis. We are then introduced to Wesley Marshall, a former soldier and molecular biologist who lives with his late brother's widow, Lucy, and his niece, Emma. Lucy lost her husband during the previous supermoon event, and she finds herself reflecting on that painful memory. Because of that loss, Wesley refuses to lose anyone else. Determined to protect Lucy and Emma, he spends his time fortifying their home. He sets up numerous traps around the property, electrifies the fence, and installs an advanced surveillance system to ensure maximum safety when the monsters appear. The entire neighborhood is gripped by fear, with everyone rushing to prepare for the terrifying night ahead. Lucy's neighbor, Reagan, knocks on the door to bring some treats for Emma. Before Reagan leaves, Lucy gives her a few useful supplies for the night and urges her to stay safe. Meanwhile, Wesley visits his neighbor Cody, who seems completely oblivious to the danger. Wesley warns him to stop recklessly firing ammunition because there are children nearby, and he has already damaged one of his fuel tanks. Cody brushes off the concern, saying he's simply preparing for the hellish night that's coming, when everyone will be left to fend for themselves. Later, Wesley tells Lucy that the house is fully secured and reminds her of the survival rules: never open the door for anyone, stay quiet, and avoid drawing attention. He also tells her not to hesitate to use a weapon if she has to protect herself and Emma, no matter who the threat might be. Wesley says goodbye to Emma and explains that he cannot stay with them. However, he reassures her that nothing will be able to get inside and hurt them. In another part of the house, he hesitates about leaving, but Lucy reminds him that the scientists need his help, and he ultimately decides to go. After Wesley leaves and the two girls remain safely locked inside the house, chaos erupts in the streets as people rush toward secure locations. At a press conference attended by scientists and military leaders, Dr. Aranda introduces the team tasked with finding a solution to the coming disaster, with Wesley serving as one of its key members. Dr. Aranda reveals that the team has developed a serum called Moner, which is believed to prevent the supermoon's effects on human DNA. He explains that the upcoming night will be crucial in the search for a permanent cure, and wishes everyone good luck. Inside the facility, scientists and military personnel brief a group of volunteers who will test the new serum by exposing themselves to the moonlight that night. Their goal is to determine whether the serum can provide a permanent solution. One of the test subjects is Miles, the husband of scientist Amy. He is restrained with heavy chains and placed inside a large cage. As the sun disappears beyond the horizon, people begin counting down to the worst moment of the night. Wesley and several members of the team put on specialized protective suits designed to shield them from the supermoon's effects and head to the testing area. Alongside Miles are 3 additional volunteers, 1 woman and 2 men. The facility begins its final countdown toward the peak of the supermoon's influence while the scientists make their last preparations. The female volunteer becomes terrified, changes her mind, and begs to leave, but by then it is already too late. Moments later, the roof of the testing chamber opens, revealing the enormous moon hanging in the sky. Tension fills the room as everyone waits for the transformation to begin. Surprisingly, none of the volunteers turn into monsters, proving that the serum appears to be working. The scientists celebrate the apparent success and move on to the next phase of the experiment. At the same time, back in Lucy's neighborhood, a shadowy figure darts between the houses. As Lucy sits with Emma, the lights inside the homes begin to flicker, making the atmosphere even more unsettling. She checks the security monitors but sees nothing unusual. Meanwhile, Reagan is alone in her house, calling out for her mother. When no one answers, panic begins to set in, and her breathing grows heavier as fear takes hold. Suddenly, we see the monster right behind her as it lunges to attack. In the test wing, Dr. James enters the area where the volunteers are, and Wesley shows him that the serum is working against the transformation. Wesley explains that the transformation seems to be a kind of dormant defensive response triggered by the supermoon. James asks why this is happening now, but Wesley still doesn't have an answer. Suddenly, Miles begins to feel something strange, and his body starts entering a transformation state. James immediately orders them to spray him with the serum, but Miles, who is already transforming, grabs the device with his hand, which is now growing beast-like fur, and throws it away. Chaos erupts in the facility. Because of this, the other 3 volunteers also begin to transform. The facility's systems start failing completely. Even Amy screams, demanding that the roof be closed quickly, but it doesn't happen due to a power failure. Amid the chaos, Wesley realizes that Miles has been exposed as well, but the transformation continues. Wesley tries to sedate him, but it doesn't work. The transformation completes rapidly, and the monster attacks one of the scientists. The situation spirals into madness and despair. At that moment, everything becomes extremely dangerous. Wesley carries his injured colleague towards safety, while another scientist fires wildly in every direction in a desperate attempt to hit the monster. However, all he manages to do is accidentally free one of the prisoners inside the cages. The released werewolves break loose and slaughter the scientists. Outside, Amy tries to escape and finds Wesley with the injured colleague. When they hear a roar coming from the hallway ahead, they change direction and enter another room, but the monster spots them and gives chase. They barely manage to lock themselves inside another room. Meanwhile, Lucy becomes terrified as she watches the monsters moving on the security cameras, while Cody remains in a state of full alert outside. He yells at one of the creatures in a tree and opens fire. Wesley's injured teammates cannot withstand their wounds and die. Amy suggests staying and waiting for help, but Wesley insists that no help is coming and that they will die if they stay. Amy warns that leaving means facing moonlight and turning into monsters, but Wesley tells her they can use the serum formula to protect themselves. We return to Cody, still in a state of high alert, shouting outside. Suddenly, a freezer is thrown through a window and hurled away, but Cody is also exposed to the moonlight and begins transforming as well. Inside the facility, Wesley and Amy continue moving through the building, facing everything in their path. They know the serum effect lasts about an hour, so Wesley sets his watch to avoid losing time. They agree that if one of them transforms, the other must continue alone. When they exit, they encounter Miles after his transformation. Amy freezes, but Wesley tries to push forward. Amy then shoots a gas cylinder, stunning the monster and giving them a chance to escape. They manage to flee and get into a car, driving away at full speed. Wesley's current goal is to reach Lucy's house. On the way, he calls to check on her. Lucy tells him what's happening, including that she saw one of the werewolves attacking Cody's house. Then she hears someone calling her from outside. It's Reagan, screaming at the door, covered in wax so she won't transform. Lucy panics and wants to help her, but she knows it's extremely dangerous. On the phone, Wesley yells at her not to open the door for anyone and tries to remind her of the survival rules. Lucy hesitates when she sees her neighbor in that condition and decides to help her anyway. Through the camera intercom system, she tells Reagan to calm down and that she will come help her immediately, but it's already too late. One of the monsters attacks Reagan and drags her away. After that, a bus suddenly pulls in front of Wesley and Amy's car, causing a violent crash. Lucy, unable to reach Wesley, sees the werewolf brutally devouring her friend outside and breaks down in tears. The monster lets out a terrifying roar, leaving Lucy and her daughter in even greater fear. Wesley and Amy survive the crash, but they must hurry out of the car before it catches fire. With great effort, they manage to escape. Meanwhile, Cody, now transformed into a werewolf, carries Reagan's body and throws it over the electric fence. Lucy tries to control the situation. After telling her mother to stay in a safe place, she notices Cody approaching the fence in his werewolf form and uses pepper spray directly in his face, making him howl in pain. Meanwhile, Wesley and Amy continue on foot, trying to move forward without attracting attention. But they encounter a group of werewolves tearing apart a car in the street, so they decide to sneak past carefully. They move slowly between parked vehicles, but one of the creatures catches their scent and approaches quickly. With no other option, Wesley pulls Amy under a car, hoping their smell will be masked by the strong odors in the area. The werewolf reaches the spot and begins destroying nearby cars, searching for them. It comes very close, sniffing the air beneath the vehicle, but fails to detect them and moves on. At the same time, Cody struggles to ease the burning pain in his eyes from the pepper spray, letting out a terrifying howl that increases Lucy's fear. After believing the danger has passed, Wesley and Amy crawl out from under the car. Their device then begins to beep. The serum's effect has worn off. This also reveals that the werewolves are still nearby, drawn by the sound. They have no choice but to run for their lives. The creatures chase them relentlessly until they spot a supermarket door being shut. They rush inside. Inside, they find a young man who locked the door and is shouting at them to leave. Suddenly, they are confronted by armed people inside the store, and Amy is threatened at gunpoint. Wesley tries to explain that they are scientists working on a cure, but one of the masked men refuses to believe him and says there is no cure, questioning why they shouldn't be thrown outside to the monsters. Wesley says he needs to reach his family and must use the tunnel beneath the facility to get there. The man hesitates, then agrees to guide them, but warns that beyond that point they will be on their own. Through the cameras, Lucy sees the streets are full of werewolves and realizes they are planning something. Wesley and Amy reach the tunnel and proceed carefully, but the gate is locked. Wesley prepares to shoot it open, but before he can, a werewolf jumps at them from behind. They have no choice but to fight for their lives. Before they can fire, the creature knocks them down and topples the gate. Amy is stunned from the impact, and Wesley tries to get up but is thrown back again. The monster lunges at him, but Wesley grabs a metal rod and drives it into the creature, killing it quickly. Amy wakes up and helps him get back on his feet so they can keep moving forward. Eventually, they reach an exit leading out to the street. They stop to avoid the effects of the supermoon light, and cover themselves with a tarp, trying to continue carefully. When they enter a nearby shop, they accidentally trigger an alarm, but quickly turn it off, knowing it would attract the attention of the monsters as if inviting them in. They each carry a second dose of the serum, but because the temperature is extremely hot, they need to place it in a freezer to cool it down before using it. That is why they enter the store. At Lucy's house, the electric fence is still working, and she and her daughter remain safe for the moment. However, the creatures, knowing they cannot pass through directly, begin destroying the cameras one by one until only 2 remain, leaving Lucy nearly blind in surveillance. While Wesley and Lucy wait for the serum to cool, Wesley admits that he spent his life on missions around the world and never had time to build a family, and didn't really want one. But after his brother's death, he now feels responsible for protecting his brother's family, which has become his own. Still, he fears he may not be doing it correctly. Amy comforts him, telling him he is doing everything he can. At that moment, the serum reaches the right temperature, and Amy goes to find something to keep it cold during their journey. Suddenly, Wesley hears a sound nearby. He investigates and finds a young woman with her back turned, seemingly eating something. He tells her to turn around and asks how she got in there. When she turns, he sees she is partially transformed and eating a cat. Wesley refuses to shoot and warns her not to come closer, but she keeps advancing. Amy arrives and immediately shocks her with an electric device, knocking her unconscious. Outside Lucy's house, the werewolves, now following Cody's orders, begin violently attacking the electric fence, trying to bring it down. The house lights flicker as the system struggles. Lucy grabs a shotgun and prepares for defense while monitoring the remaining cameras. She sees one of the monsters pushing a pole onto the fence, causing a total power failure. Now the house is exposed. Only barricaded doors remain to slow the creatures down. Some traps take out a few of them, but others keep smashing doors and windows. Lucy and Emma activate emergency lights and prepare for the assault. In the living room, Lucy notices a creature on the roof, but it has already been caught in one of Wesley's traps, buying them some time. After Wesley and Amy take another dose of serum, they continue through the streets toward Lucy's house. On the way, they encounter a heavily armed group wearing protective gear against the Supermoon, fighting another group of werewolves. Wesley sees this as a chance to reach his family faster. The armed group temporarily pushes the creatures back, but when Wesley and Amy reveal themselves and ask them not to shoot, they are ignored despite insisting they are protected by the serum. Suddenly, a werewolf attacks one of the armed men, and another brutal battle erupts. Wesley and Amy are forced to fight to survive as more monsters arrive. The armed group quickly begins to fall. Amy realizes they are being surrounded and decides to use herself as bait. She tells Wesley she has a theory she needs to test and convinces him by saying he must reach Lucy no matter what and not die here. Amy draws the monster's attention. One approaches, sniffs her, and hesitates before biting her lightly. She then stands her ground and screams directly at it, provoking a terrifying roar in response. At that moment, Wesley shouts from atop a vehicle, and an anti-aircraft gun opens fire on the creatures, scattering them. Amy tries to run toward the car, but a monstrous hand grabs her and drags her away. Wesley tries to reach her, but it is already too late. With no other option, Wesley continues driving toward Lucy's house. Meanwhile, Lucy has nearly run out of ammunition, firing at the roof and killing several creatures that manage to get inside. The situation becomes critical as more keep coming. She and Emma are pushed into a desperate position as doors and barricades begin to fail. Just as the last bullets are spent, a car horn sounds outside. It is Wesley, who has arrived and is trying to draw the monsters away. The creatures gather in the street, and Wesley attempts to run them over, but Cody, still alive in his werewolf form, jumps onto the hood, causing Wesley to crash into the house. Lucy and Emma think the danger is over, but another monster breaks through a wall and attacks them again. They run into another room, and Lucy hides Emma in a closet. Lucy waits behind the door. As soon as the monster enters, Emma sprays it, and Lucy tries to attack from behind, but she is thrown across the room. Emma attempts to defend her mother with a knife, but it is ineffective. Just as the creature is about to kill her, Lucy grabs an axe and kills it. At the same time, Wesley arrives and calls out to them. He is relieved to see them alive. He checks they are not badly injured, but there is no time to rest. Cody is still alive and about to free himself from the crashed car. Their ammunition is gone, and they have no way to fight the monster outside. Wesley makes a final decision. He says goodbye and tells Emma to always stay strong and brave as she grows up. He gives Lucy a watch set to 15 minutes, the time remaining until dawn. He goes outside, and as the serum wears off completely, he transforms into a werewolf to fight Cody on equal terms. A brutal battle begins between the two beasts. Wesley initially gains the upper hand, but the situation quickly changes. Lucy realizes Wesley has also become a monster, and quickly hides Emma in a safe place. Heavy footsteps approach. With only one remaining shotgun shell, Lucy loads it and prepares. Before the creature enters, she tries to reach Wesley's human side, holding up a family photo. He hesitates for a moment, but then lifts her and lets out a powerful roar. Lucy prepares to fire, but the watch beeps. Sunrise has arrived. In a desperate move, she shoots the window to let the sunlight in. Bright sunlight floods the room, and Wesley returns to his human form before causing any tragedy to his family. And that is the end of the story. Thanks for watching, and don't forget that your opinion matters to us. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel.